You know, the world's most popular sport. It's right in the middle of this profound intellectual battle. And look, we're not just talking about formations or substitutions here. This is a war over the very soul of the game, a clash of ideas that's totally reshaping how football is played, coached, and even how we understand it.
And believe me, that is not an exaggeration. As the French newspaper L'Equipe put it back in 2026, we're watching a tectonic fracture. You've got these two fundamentally different philosophies just crashing into each other, and it's forcing pretty much everyone to pick a side.
So, at the heart of this whole thing, you've basically got two figures. On one side, you have the architect, the one who designs the game with cold, hard logic. And on the other, you have the artist, who plays it with pure intuition and spontaneous genius. It's a real battle between rational design and, well, organic creation.
Okay, the best way to get this is to think about a chessboard. So, positionism, that's your rook. It moves in straight, predictable lines, and it controls all that open space with ruthless geometry. The pitch is just a grid to be dominated. But relationism, that's the knight. It doesn't care about barriers. It just jumps over obstacles and pops up in the most unexpected places. For the knight, the pitch isn't a grid at all. It's this web of connections.
All right, let's start with positionism, the philosophy of the architect. The whole idea here is that players must occupy specific, predetermined zones. Why? To maintain the team's shape and create superiority through structure. I mean, the ultimate example of this, of course, is Pep Guardiola's famous model, where the pitch is literally carved up into 20 zones. The system tells you where to be. The system is king.
And then you have relationism, which is, well, the complete opposite. This is the philosophy of the artist. Here, there are no fixed zones. A player's position is totally fluid, and it's decided only by their relationship to the ball and to their closest teammates. The only thing that matters is the guy with the ball. This creates this organic, constantly shifting network. So it's not about where should I be on the grid. It's where does the game, right here, right now, need me to be?
And this just nails the difference. The analyst John Mackenzie put it perfectly. He said, positionism treats the pitch like a geometry problem, where the answer is a fixed coordinate. You need to be a point XY. But relationism, it sees the pitch as a network of links, where the solution isn't a point, but a vibration, a kind of shared frequency between players, a coordinate versus a vibration. I mean, come on, that is just a beautiful way to think about this whole split.
Okay, so let's break this down, right? The key differences. For a positionalist coach, the pitch itself, those fixed zones, that's the main reference point. The goal is to stretch the opponent out across the stable grid. The coach is the architect. But for the relationist coach, the ball is the only reference. The goal is to create these dense, adaptive little groups around it. The coach isn't an orchestrator. They're more like a facilitator, just letting the player's intelligence emerge on its own.
Okay, so you might be asking, why is this huge debate happening now? Well, for years, positionism was it. It was the dominant, conquering philosophy. But its own success started to show some really deep cracks in the system, and that led to a full-blown identity crisis for the sport. And this was the moment that really set everything on fire. We're in late 2023. It's the Club World Cup final. Pep Guardiola, the high priest of positionism, is up against Fernando Deniz's chaotic, free-flowing Fluminense. And after the match, Pep actually admitted, "We have never faced a team like this." I mean, that's a stunning admission. The architect had just seen something new, something powerful, in the work of what you might call the gardener. And the debate just exploded. See, the real problem was that positionism, in its quest for total control, had kind of turned into a prison. Players weren't interpreters of the game anymore. They were just executors of coordinates. The very system that was designed to create genius had actually started to stifle it. You ended up with predictable, almost robotic play, and a real crisis of creativity. And this crisis, it didn't happen overnight. It really built up over a few years. It all kicked off with Pep's comments in late 2023. By 2025, Sky Sport was talking about a cigarette crisis, this term for how clubs were systematically rejecting those creative, artist-type players. And then, in February 2026, Jamie Hamilton's big essay Crash came out, and he argued that football had hit terminal velocity. It had become so obsessed with efficiency that it was making players creatively blind. But here's the thing. This isn't just a story where one side wins and the other loses. No, out of all the chaos of this conflict, a new solution started to come into view. It wasn't a victory for the architect, and it wasn't a victory for the artist. It was a synthesis of both, a third way. And that brings us to hybridization. The idea here isn't to choose between structure and freedom, but to actually combine them. So, a hybrid team will have a stable, minimal structure, a few players who act as anchors to hold the basic shape. But then it unleashes other players as floaters, who are free to connect and create based on their intuition. So the key is this. It's not about picking order or chaos. It's about organizing their coexistence and trusting that modern players are smart enough to handle both. And you know what? We're seeing this pop up everywhere at the highest level. You've got Thiago Motta and his so-called atheist football using this bizarre 2-7-2 shape where no position is sacred. You've got Carlo Ancelotti, who people are calling a European rationalist. He just gives a basic framework and then trusts his world-class players to figure it out. And at Inter, Simone Inzaghi is borrowing ideas from futsal using universal players who are constantly rotating. And listen, the data actually backs all of this up. There's this metric called expected possession value, or EPV, that basically measures the risk versus reward of a team's style. And while pure possessionism is pretty effective and pure relationism is definitely riskier, the data shows the hybrid model actually comes out on top. It really does seem to offer the best of both worlds. You get the creative rewards of relationism, but with that safe foundation of structure.
So when you boil it all down, this whole tactical debate, it's really forcing us to ask a much deeper, almost philosophical question about what we even want from the game itself. Is football really about imposing control, or is it about embracing chaos? And this, right here, this gets to the very heart of what it's like to be a player in these systems. The positionalist mindset, it demands that you decide what to do before the ball even gets to you. The decision is already calculated. But the relationalist mindset, it's the total opposite. You wait, you feel the game, and you decide what to do at the very last possible moment, just reacting to the beautiful chaos around you.
You know, there's this one analogy that I think captures this whole thing perfectly. Positionism is like classical music. It's about mastering a perfect pre-written score with absolute precision. Relationism, that's a jazz solo. It's about creating something totally new and beautiful in the moment by mastering the unknown. Both require absolute genius, don't get me wrong, but they're just fundamentally different ways of looking at the world.
Which, of course, leaves us with this huge question, one that goes way beyond just tactics. As the game keeps evolving, will its future belong to the architects, the ones who try to control every single variable? Or will it belong to the artists, the ones who find their genius by accepting that maybe, just maybe, the game itself is the one in control? The answer? Well, it's still being written, on pitches all over the world.